The morning sun over Miami was pure gold, slicing through layers of soft clouds like liquid fire. Flight 227, a commercial Boeing 737 bound for New York, stood tall at Gate 14, humming quietly as engineers finished their pre-flight checks. The terminal buzzed with the familiar orchestra of boarding calls, rolling suitcases and coffee-fueled passengers. Inside the waiting area, a boy sat by the glass, eyes glued to the giant airplane outside. His name was Ethan Cole, age 12, a quiet but curious soul with sandy blonde hair and eyes that shimmered with a kind of intelligence rare for his age. While other kids his age spent their days on video games, Ethan spent hours studying flight simulators. He knew the names of every aircraft, every cockpit switch, and even the emergency radio codes. Flying wasn't just a dream, it was his life. Beside him, his mother, Laura Cole, scrolled through her phone, tired from their short vacation. She smiled at her son's fascination. "You really love these planes, don't you?" she asked. Ethan nodded without looking away. "One day, Mom, I'm going to fly one," she chuckled softly. "Maybe one day, baby. But for now, let's just get home." At 9:15 a.m., passengers began boarding, rows filled with families, business travelers, and tourists. The cabin was calm. The pilots, Captain James Warren and First Officer Daniel Harris, were veterans of the skies. Between them, they had 35 years of flying experience. No one aboard that flight could have imagined that. Within hours, both men would be unconscious, and the life of every single soul on board would rest in the small, trembling hands of a child at 10:03 a.m. Flight 227 climbed smoothly through 30,000 feet. The captain's voice echoed through the cabin speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We're cruising at an altitude of 30,000 feet. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride." The passengers applauded lightly. Ethan smiled, pressing his face to the window, watching clouds float like cotton islands below. Everything was normal, until it wasn't. At 10:42 a.m., turbulence struck unexpectedly. The plane shuddered violently, throwing drinks and nerves into the air. Passengers gasped, some clutched their seats. But turbulence was nothing new. The pilots handled it professionally, stabilizing the aircraft. Then something strange happened in the cockpit. The first officer's voice began to slur mid-sentence. "James, I don't feel right." Captain Warren turned alarmed. "Dan, what's wrong?" Before he could react, Harris's body went limp, his head slumping over the controls. "Dan!" Warren shouted. He grabbed the controls, trying to keep the jet steady. But within moments, his own vision began to blur. He felt dizzy, nauseous. His heartbeat accelerated. Then darkness swallowed him too. The cockpit went silent. Autopilot kicked in, but the plane was alone, unguarded, flying thousands of feet above the earth with no one conscious at the helm. In the cabin, no one knew yet. Flight attendants served coffee and snacks. The soft murmur of conversation filled the air. Ethan noticed something odd first. The plane's altitude on the seatback screen was fluctuating. A drop of 500 feet, then another. The seatbelt sign flicked on. A ripple of unease moved through the passengers. Then came the announcement, or rather the lack of one. The cockpit was silent. Minutes passed, then 10, still nothing. Flight attendant Maria Alvarez knocked on the cockpit door. No answer. She tried again, louder this time. Still silence. Panic began to creep up her spine. She turned to her colleague. "Get the master key." When the door finally swung open, what they saw froze them both. Both pilots slumped over, motionless. "Captain! Captain, can you hear me?" Maria shouted, shaking them. Nothing. She grabbed the intercom. "This is the flight crew. If there's a doctor on board, please come to the cockpit immediately." The cabin erupted in chaos. People stood up, whispering, gasping. Laura Cole held Ethan's hand tightly. "What's happening?" she asked, but Ethan already knew. His eyes widened in horror. "Mom, the pilots." 15 agonizing minutes later, a paramedic passenger confirmed it. Both pilots had collapsed from a suspected case of food poisoning. Their breathing was shallow but steady. That meant one thing. They were alive but completely unconscious. The flight was still on autopilot, but they couldn't stay that way forever. The fuel would eventually run low. Someone had to take control, and soon. Maria's voice trembled through the intercom. "Is there anyone on board who knows how to fly a plane?" Anyone with aviation experience, please come to the front immediately. Silence. Then a small hand raised in row 17. Ethan stood up. His mother grabbed his wrist. Ethan, sit down. Mom, I can help, he said firmly. You're 12. She whispered, terrified. I've done it hundreds of times. In the simulator. Please, Mom, I can do this. Before she could stop him, he ran down the aisle toward the cockpit. The passengers stared, some murmuring, "Is this kid crazy?" But Ethan didn't hear them. His heart was pounding so hard he could barely breathe. He entered the cockpit and looked at the array of blinking lights, the yoke, the throttles. Everything he'd seen on his computer, but now it was real. The stakes were life and death. He slipped into the captain's seat, hands trembling but steadying with every second. "Okay," he whispered to himself. "Let's do this." Maria picked up the radio headset and handed it to him. "Talk to air traffic control," she said. "They'll guide you." Ethan nodded. He pressed the button. "Miami Center, this is Flight 227. The pilots are unconscious. I need help." There was silence, then a shocked response crackled through. "Flight 227, say again? Who's speaking?" "This is Ethan Cole. I'm a passenger. I'm 12 years old." A pause. Then, "Copy that, Ethan. You're doing great. Stay calm. We'll get you home." Within seconds, air traffic controllers at Miami and Atlanta were scrambling. Radar screens lit up, calls flew across channels, and a team of veteran pilots and flight instructors were patched into Ethan's radio. One voice came through, calm, deep, reassuring. "Ethan, my name is Captain Roberts. I'm going to help you land this plane. You just do what I say, okay?" "Yes, sir," Ethan said, voice shaking. Roberts asked him to check the autopilot panel. Ethan located it instantly. "Autopilot's on. Altitude 30,000. Good, now we're going to start bringing her down slowly. Turn the altitude dial to 2000. Ethan reached forward. His fingers brushed the dial, carefully twisting it. The plane began its slow descent. Outside the windows, clouds peeled away as the blue horizon widened. In the cabin, passengers prayed, cried, and clung to each other. Laura sat frozen, tears rolling down her face as she whispered, "Please, God, guide my son." The descent wasn't smooth. At 15,000 feet, turbulence hit again. The plane lurched violently. Gasps filled the cabin. Ethan gripped the controls. "Ethan, you've got this," Captain Roberts said over the radio. "Pull slightly back on the yoke. Steady her. That's it." Ethan followed every word, his hands sweating but firm. He felt the airplane respond, smoother now. He exhaled, unaware he'd been holding his breath. "Good work, son," the voice said. "Now bring down the landing gear lever." He pulled the lever. A metallic thump echoed below as the wheels extended. The runway at Miami International appeared in the distance, long gray, glimmering in the afternoon sun. "Ethan, listen carefully," said Roberts. "You're lined up perfectly. I'll call your speeds. Keep her level. Use small movements." The control tower cleared the runway. Emergency vehicles lined up like red ants waiting below. Speeds 150 knots. Easy on the throttle. Good. Now flare up just a little. The ground was rising fast. The noise, the wind, the shaking, and it was overwhelming. Laura watched from the cabin window, whispering, "Come on, baby. Come on." Then, with a soft screech and a burst of smoke, the plane touched down. The wheels screamed. The plane bounced and then steadied. "Throttle to idle, reverse thrust," Roberts instructed. Ethan obeyed. The engines roared in reverse. The aircraft slowed. Slower. Slower. Until it came to a complete stop on the runway. For a moment, there was silence. Then, applause, cheers, tears. 150 people erupted in disbelief and joy. Ethan took off the headset, shaking uncontrollably. Did we make it?" Maria smiled through tears. "You did it, Ethan. You landed the plane." Emergency teams rushed aboard. Both pilots were rushed to the hospital and survived. The cause was traced to a bacterial contamination in the cockpit meal. News spread within hours. 12-year-old boy lands passenger jet, saves 150 lives. Television crews swarmed the airport. The world couldn't believe it. When Ethan stepped out of the plane, sunlight hitting his face, he was no longer just a boy. He was a symbol of courage. Reporters shouted questions. "Ethan, how did you do it?" "Were you scared?" He simply said, "I just remembered what my mom always says. Stay calm and do what you know." His mother hugged him tightly. "You saved us all," she whispered. He looked up at the sky. "No, Mom, the sky saved me. Weeks later, aviation academies reached out offering him scholarships. Pilots from around the world sent letters. Flight 227 became a story every training program would tell, a reminder that courage knows no age. One evening, Ethan sat by his bedroom window, gazing at a model airplane on his desk. His mom entered quietly. "Thinking about it again?" she asked. He smiled faintly. "Yeah, every time I close my eyes I can still hear the engines." Laura hugged him. "You did something the world will never forget." He turned to her. "Mom, someday I won't just land a plane. I'll fly one." Epilogue. The sky belongs to the brave years. Later, when Ethan Cole turned 18, he earned his private pilot license. At 22, he joined a commercial airline. Every time he sat in the captain's seat, he touched a small inscription on his wristwatch. A gift from his mother the day after Flight 227 landed safely. It read, "For the boy who believed and saved us all." And whenever the engines roared and the plane lifted off the ground, he would whisper the same words that had kept him alive that day at 12 years old. "Stay calm. Trust the sky." Because that day, somewhere between fear and faith, a 12-year-old boy became a hero, and 150 people lived to tell the story.